Mr. and Mrs. Brown had 2 sons. One was named Mind Your Own Business and the other was named Trouble. One day the 2 boys decided to play hide and seek. Trouble, his whole Mind Your Own Business counted to 100. Mind Your Own Business began looking for his brother behind garbage cans and bushes. Then he started looking in and under cars until a policeman approached him and asked, "What are you doing?" "Playing a game," the boy replied. "What is your name?" the officer questioned. "Mind Your Own Business." Furious, the policeman inquired, "Are you looking for trouble?" The boy replied, "Why, yes." A boy asks his father, "Dad, are bugs good to eat?" "That's disgusting. Don't talk about things like that over dinner," the dad replies. After dinner the father asks, "Now, son, what did you want to ask me?" "Oh, nothing," the boy says. "There was a bug in your soup, but now it's gone." A woman and her 13-year-old son were inside a taxi. It was raining and all the Twilight girls, prostitutes, were standing by the roadside. The boy asked, "Mummy, what are all those women doing?" His mother replied, "They are waiting for their husbands to come back from work." The taxi driver turned around and said, "Why don't you tell him the truth?" "Little boy, they are prostitutes, they sleep with men for money," said the driver. The boy's eyes got wide and asked, "Mummy, is that true?" His mother, glaring hard at the driver, replied, "Yes." After a few minutes, the boy asked, "Mummy, what happens to the babies those women have?" She replied, "Most of them become taxi drivers." On the way to a conference, a revered scientist is talking to his chauffeur. The driver asks him, "Boss, I've driven you around the country for over 10 years. I've listened to your talks hundreds of times. I am pretty sure I know everything by heart now. Would you like to make a bet?" "What kind of bet?" "We look alike. You've never talked in this city. I bet I could do the talk instead of you without nobody noticing. And if I succeed, you'll pay me double for the trip. If I don't, this one's for free." Bored and with nothing better to do, the scientist ends up agreeing, believing the chauffeur didn't stand a chance. They switch clothes at a rest stop, and once they arrive, the driver goes to the stand while the scientist sits in the audience. Miraculously, the chauffeur delivers the talk in an almost perfect way. No one seems to notice. At the end, a mic is passed around through the audience for some questions, and the driver answers them all correctly, until a young professor poses a question he has never heard before. He has no idea what the answer is. He freezes before scratching his head, taking a deep breath and saying, "Dear colleague, I don't mean to offend you, but that question is so insultingly easy that I will let my chauffeur in the audience answer it for me." A Texas state trooper pulled a car over on I-35 about 2 miles south of Waco, Texas. When the trooper asked the driver why he was speeding, the driver said he was a magician and juggler and was on his way to Austin, Texas to do a show for the Shrine Circus. He didn't want to be late. The trooper told the driver he was fascinated by juggling and said if the driver would do a little juggling for him, then he wouldn't give him a ticket. He told the trooper he had sent his equipment ahead and didn't have anything to juggle. The trooper said he had some flares in the trunk and asked if he could juggle them. The juggler said he could, so the trooper got 5 flares, lit them and handed them to him. While the man was juggling, a car pulled in behind the state trooper's car. A drunken good old boy from Central Texas got out, watched the performance, then went over to the trooper's car, opened the rear door and got in. The trooper observed him and went over to the state car, opened the door asking the drunk what he thought he was doing. The drunk replied, "You might as well take me to jail, 'cause there ain't no way I can pass that test." A blonde was speeding when a local police officer pulled her over and walked up to the car. The officer also happened to be a blonde, and she asked for the blonde's driver's license. The driver searched frantically in her purse for a while and finally said to the blonde policewoman, "What does a driver's license look like?" Irritated, the blonde cop said, "You dummy, it's got your picture on it." The blonde driver frantically searched her purse again and found a small, rectangular mirror down at the bottom. She held it up to her face and said, "Aha! This must be my driver's license," and handed it to the blonde policewoman. The blonde cop looked in the mirror, handed it back to the driver and said, "You're free to go. And if I had known you were a police officer too, we could have avoided all of this."
A woman didn't come home one night. The next morning she told her husband that she had slept over at a friend's house. The man called his wife's 10 best friends. None of them knew anything about it. A man didn't come home one night. The next morning he told his wife that he had slept over at a friend's house. The wife called her husband's 10 best friends. 8 of them confirmed that he had slept over and 2 said he was still there. A woman arrives home from work and her husband notices she's wearing a diamond necklace. He asks his wife, "Where did you get that necklace?" She replies, "I won it in a raffle at work. Go get my bath ready while I start dinner." The next day, the woman arrives home from work wearing a diamond bracelet. Her husband asks, "Where did you get the bracelet?" She replies, "I won it in a raffle at work. Go get my bath ready while I start dinner." The next day, her husband notices she arrives home from work wearing a mink coat. He says, "I suppose you won that in a raffle at work?" She replies, "Yeah, I did." "How did you guess?" "Go get my bath ready while I start supper." Later after supper, she goes to take her bath and she notices there is only 1 inch of water in the tub. She yells to her husband, "Hey, there's only 1 inch of water in the tub." He replies, "I didn't want you to get your raffle ticket wet." The newlywed wife said to her husband when he returned from work, "I have great news for you. Pretty soon, we're going to be 3 in this house instead of 2. Her husband ran to her with a smile on his face and delight in his eyes. He was glowing of happiness and kissing his wife when she said, "I'm glad that you feel this way since tomorrow morning, my mother in with us." Hey there, I put a lot effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy. Thank you.